What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Savoy. We're going back to their 1997 Lackluster Me album. And I wanted to give a shout out to Jack. He commented just a couple hours before I began this batch of reactions on the foreign film reaction from last week, and he mentioned that the next tune, which is Flowers for, what is the name? Flowers for Sylvia, which sounds like a soap opera or perhaps a novel. Nevertheless, he mentioned that it's a shorter track and it has spoken word. It's less of a formal tune, so it might make sense to do a 2-for-1. So that's what we're gonna do. And the second track after that, or the second tune in this batch that we will hear is "I Still Cry." So Flowers for Sylvia, it makes me wonder who Sylvia is and if we will hear her as the spoken word. And "I Still Cry," it suggests the prolonging of some emotional response. Now, again, people can cry for different reasons, but longer cries tend to be sadder. If you're inspired, if you feel very joyful, you can have your emotions sort of, feel overcome with that level of emotion. But ultimately, again, crying over a longer term, it feels like it's inevitably more sad and painful. So "I Still Cry" makes me think about someone who perhaps is beyond some experience or some severing of a relationship, and on some level is aware of how to keep going forward, but they're still hurt, they're still wounded from it. So let's find out what both of these tunes are. This is Savoy from Lackluster Me. The first thing we're going to hear is a tune with some spoken word called "Flowers for Sylvia," and then "I Still Cry."
Southern sunrise, channel crossing, the Queen's complaint, song for a summer's day, strumpet song, dialogue between ghost and priest, epitaph for fire and flower, the beggars, spinster, departure, resolve, November graveyard, the snowman on the moor, Mayflower, the everlasting Monday, on the difficulty of finding out the drive, the lady from the earthly
Feels like we're at some interdimensional crossroads,
snake charmer,
or memories of things that have happened
the tree,
linger.
a winter's tale, above rock slow, the ghost's leave taking, child's harp songs, lightness I remember, the times are tidy, a winter ship, the ravished face, form for a birthday, sleep in the Mojave Desert,
Don't do that right now.
two campers in cloud country, love letter, candles, waking in winter, stars of the Dordogne.
More to say about this after "I Still Cry." Like tight pop of the snare. Like that organ, like where
everything is washed in shades of gray. Ask me how I know. What's so I still cry for you. I still cry. I still cry. I don't know why.
there's a bit of like Paul Simon in it. There's like
The pain when it goes away, it's almost worth it just to feel it fade away.
it's an interesting take. Comment on that later.
Asking what's your cry? I still cry for you. I still cry for you. I still
That keyboard is a bit doors. I like it. Has that real sort of electric organ feel. I feel like it's a song that, demonstrates them exploring some different flavors over the duration of the single track. But while what was it? Oh wait, that's right. That line, it's interesting, right? Because it's not like Trent Reznor's Hurt, in the idea that, well, like, I hurt myself to see if I still feel anything. Because the line here was that, like, it was almost worth it just for the feeling of the hurt, like the pain fading away, which is interesting because it makes me think about something my mom said to me a long time ago, and not to put her on blast, but I remember when I was a teenager, she had said something to the effect of, like, when she was young, she had this, like, weird memory of, like, enjoying eating ice cream and, like, putting her teeth into it, which, like, famously is, like, a very, like, intense and uncomfortable feeling, because the feeling of removing it or removing them was, like, so gratifying that it made the experience of doing it like worthwhile. And I remember, like, laughing. I mean, she was saying it was, like, ridiculous too, but I remember I was like something to the effect of, like, how very Catholic of you. But ultimately that's what it made me think of, that, like, the idea of going through a painful experience being worth it to feel it finally fade away is, like, an interesting take. But yeah, it sounds like, a wash in shades of gray, where it's like, I'm not sure, was this my fault, was this their fault, was this, like, could this have been avoided, could it not have been avoided, just a lot of ambiguity and lack of clarity and, confusion as to, one's own role, or whether it was more the behavior of the other person. But it sounds like they still can cry over the other person. But again, maybe it's transitional, because maybe we're saying that by the end, it is dissipating finally. So yeah, an interesting one lyrically. I do enjoy the sonics in terms of, like I said, it had this ambient and a bit electronic quality in parts, but it also really kicked into high rocking gear for the chorus. So I enjoyed the variety. I enjoyed the layering of the vocals. It sounded like it was both Lauren and Paul. So I enjoyed the interplay of the voices. So yeah, once again, shout out to Jack for mentioning to do this as a 2-for-1. Shout out to all the people who've been part of the Walktar Wednesdays. I know I'm saying that wrong. I don't even know why I try. Nevertheless, I am enjoying Savoy, especially this second album, which, I enjoyed the first album. It was a bit more punky in parts than I thought it would be, and it had like a, real edge to it. This album still has that in parts, and indeed, in this track, the chorus had that grit and that power to it, but there's obviously, they were exploring the space sonically and bringing in some different elements and trying some different things. Perhaps none more obvious in terms of flowers for, who is it, Abigail? I'm forgetting again the name. Sylvia. Who the hell is Abigail? I have no idea who Abigail is, but yeah, Sylvia. It was interesting. I don't know if some of those are actually titles, literary, musical, wherever they may come from. And so like Mayflower, okay, like there's historical references for that, but I don't know if that's as random as seemingly some of the other stuff was. It sounded like phrases that could be titles, that could be song lyrics, or lines of poetry, but issued in a very random, almost listing, like a list, but one not ordered by chronology or alphabet or anything else. So I'm not sure what was happening in that track, and if that was supposed to be Sylvia speaking. So either way, curious track, but I enjoy the audacity of it, and I enjoy including it on an album, because there are other groups where Yazoo has a track, I Before E. It's really weird, it's really abstract, but I like that it's on the album, because it's, again, Vince trying to let's really make something experimental and so on. So even if it's not my favorite listen on the album, I appreciate its presence. So I feel similarly about this, at least on an initial listen to enunciate more clearly. In any case, I'll stop babbling and wasting your time. Do let me know what you think of this. I will see you next time. Peace.